and welcome to New Jersey Politics with Laura Jones. I am Laura Jones, and we are so glad to have you here. Coming up today, we're going to be counting down to primary election day in New Jersey, which is June 4th. When U.S. Senator Bob Menendez was indicted on federal corruption charges, that set off a wave of change in New Jersey's political landscape. Menendez's trial is now underway, and the senator is not running in the primary, but also said he is not ruling out an independent run in the general election. Since then, Congressman Andy Kim threw his hat into the race for that seat and is the presumptive nominee on the Democratic side for U.S. Senate, leaving his congressional seat in the 3rd District open. So a debate between the candidates running in that race just wrapped up, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. First up, we are going to have some of the highlights from the debate between Assemblyman Herb Conaway, Assemblywoman Carol Murphy, and Joe Cohn, a civil rights attorney for the ACLU.
Yeah, so I think looming over any election in South Jersey, including this one, is George Norcross, the Democratic power broker who holds immense sway over South Jersey Democratic politics. In your opinion, has Mr. Norcross been a force for good in South Jersey?
We can't continue to have politics go through any one person of any, no matter who they are. We need to be in a situation where the voters and the voters alone determine who our leaders are.
One of the things that I could say is that being a part of Burlington County, while I'm part of South Jersey and I work very to support South Jersey and assure that we get our fair share, I can tell you I'm very independent from the Democratic in Camden County. It serves me well, and it gives me the ability to continue being independent for my constituent.
George Norcross has at the lead, at the head of a thriving business. He has been the driving force behind the expansion of Cooper University Hospital, which has been a driving force in providing health care for the underserved, not only in Camden City, but across the region. And so he has been a force for good.
Joining me now to talk a little bit more about that debate and more are some of the panelists from the debate. David Wildstein, editor of the New Jersey Globe, and Joey Fox, congressional correspondent for the New Jersey Globe. David, Joey, good to see you both.
Thanks for having us, Laura.
Absolutely. David, set the stage for us here. If people don't live in South Jersey in the congressional district, the candidates, some of the clips we just ran, this might be their first time getting an introduction to people like Herb Conaway, Carol Murphy, and Joe Cohn. So can you tell us a little bit about this district and the dynamics of it?
This is the seat that Andy Kim flipped 6 years ago during Donald Trump's 2018 midterm. This was a district before redistricting that Trump had won twice. Kim held it twice, was supposed to run for a 4th term. We weren't expecting anything going on in this district, not on the Democratic side, not on the Republican side. Bob Menendez gets indicted. Andy Kim immediately throws his hat in the race. And all of a sudden, there's an open congressional seat in a district that is likely to go Democratic. And that means that the winner of this primary, between 5 candidates, none of whom have universal name ID, the winner is likely to go to Congress. And that has set up a really competitive race.
Joey, let's talk a little bit about the candidates running. When you have a Democratic primary, oftentimes you find that the candidates agree on far more than they differ on. What was your takeaway from the debate? Is that what you found to be the case this time, that they pretty much are similar, or are they, in fact, very different candidates and stand differently on the issues?
No, I mean, I think that you saw them mostly take pretty similar stances. I mean, I think that there were some mild differences maybe on some healthcare questions about the possibility of a national healthcare system. I think that you saw a little bit of a difference on the proposal to ban TikTok. But I mean, the candidates themselves didn't even really emphasize those differences. There wasn't a lot of attacking during the debate. There wasn't any mudslinging. This is a debate that it's relatively low profile in the sense of, oftentimes congressional elections will attract millions of dollars in spending and lots of outside interest and outside groups spending more millions and focusing in on the race. It's not really what you're seeing here. This has not become a race that means anything more than what it literally means, which is who's going to Congress from this district. Will it be one of these 2 sitting assembly members who have deep connections in state politics? will it be one of the more outsidery candidates who, for what it's worth, would be more similar to Andy Kim, who came into Congress for the first time as I think he was 36, 37-year-old former State Department official or national security advisor who had never run for office before. So I think that is ultimately what this race will revolve around, is the voters looking at the candidates themselves and seeing what profile they like, what just who they like best of these people who are all running in a relatively similar ideological lane.
Yeah, and one of the things that we try to do, and I'll let you answer this first, and then David, is, when you are dealing with a debate, yeah, sure, some stations, they want to go for the fireworks and, for the quick gotcha bites, whereas we really want to get to content. So when it came to issues, they were able to address quite a few in that 1-hour debate. Is there any one particular issue that you that stood out to you as to something that will possibly define their campaign, whoever wins this, and then going into November's general election?
So I don't know if this is necessarily fully an answer to that, but so one question that I asked was about George Norcross, who is a power broker, a Democratic power broker in South Jersey, who holds a lot of sway over South Jersey politics. And for the most part, most Democratic elected officials who serve in South Jersey serve kind of at his say-so. I mean, he is the king of the hill there. And so I asked all the candidates about whether they think that he's been a positive force for South Jersey politics. None of them would quite give a super definitive yes or a super definitive no. Assemblyman Conaway was sort of more on the yes side. The other two were maybe a little bit more, I'm on the independent side. But I think that's sort of an interesting, just as in the terms of the ways that voters think about this race, I think that's interesting. Because Andy Kim came into this seat, despite being a South Jersey Democrat, he was very much not a Norcross guy, and he never really became one. He sort of held the seat he was allied with Norcross in a basic sense, but he was never one of Norcross's people. Norcross was never like, oh, thank God I've got Andy Kim in Congress. And I think that is, especially now with the line going away, especially with the possibility of more open primaries in the future, that is, I think, a divide that's going to become increasingly important in terms of how South Jersey Democrats approach their candidates and approach their primaries.
Yeah, and David, I'll let you answer that as well, as far as, was there any issue or any one particular question that kind of stood out to you about how they answered it, didn't answer it, and could carry on to be a big campaign point as they go into the general election in November?
Yeah, there was no great, stunning policy difference. I think that what they showed is that they all have a different style on how they want to approach serving in public office. Conaway and Murphy have nearly identical, maybe completely and totally identical voting records in the legislature. And then you saw a fresh face. You saw Joe Cohn, who spent his life as an ACLU lawyer. Again, a different style, a guy who's used to fighting behind the scenes. That might be the takeaway in this debate. One of the things I love about the debates that we do with On Jersey is that they're policy heavy and they're not gotcha. And we don't ask people if they know what the price of milk is or what a bag of potato chips cost. That's not really what voters want to hear. They want to hear as many policy questions as possible. These are likely a huge pot of undecided voters. Hopefully, that's why we do these debates, so that an undecided voter can look at candidates for the first time, compare them, and decide which one they like best. It doesn't mean that one of them or two of them are no good. It means they have to choose which one they like best. I think that's what happened in that debate was they showed some different styles, and that what's the beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Yeah. People will look at these candidates and will like them or dislike them for different reasons, and that's why it's so good for the voting public to get a chance to not just see the canned ads on TV and read what is in the mail or look at their paid text messages, but to actually sort of see them side by side and listen to them.
And when it comes to the primary election, typically a lower voter turnout, would you say, David, this is one of the more competitive primary election races, that we really don't know how this is going to go, because the seat for U.S. Senate that Andy Kim has vacated, the field is cleared out, and it is pretty much looks like Andy Kim would win, and then go on to be the nominee in November, and then probably go on to be a member of Congress. But how competitive is this third congressional debate on the Democratic side?
I think this is a very competitive primary. I say that any primary in which I don't already know who's going to win. I can't tell you who's going to win this one. In New Jersey, that's not always the case. That's what the whole Line lawsuit was about, is that primary elections seem to be predetermined by party leaders picking candidates and giving them preferential ballot position in a way that everything was already worked out for them. And if they were in a solidly Democratic district or a solidly Republican district, there was no drama. That's what we're looking at now. This is exactly what this race is why people went to court and fought for a new way of electing and nominating candidates.
Yeah, Joey, when it comes to, one of the things I also wanted to just follow up on, when David was mentioning the differences between the candidates, you went and you looked at both Carol Murphy and Herb Conaway's records in the legislature, and really couldn't find a huge difference on how they've voted over the past few years. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, I looked through all of their floor votes, and part of the reason why that's true, so I could not find a single vote difference, at least in my memory, when I checked a few months ago. Part of the reason for that is that, for the most part, in New Jersey, Democrats stick together on bills. And if there's a bill where Democrats are starting to fall away and won't support a bill, it will probably just get pulled and won't even come up for a vote. Mm-hmm. So it does not necessarily reflect every possible difference that the two of them might have had. Yeah. And there are a couple of policy areas where they have expressed disagreements. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that's, I think, one more piece of evidence that this is a primary among several people who would mostly go to Congress and take similar votes, but would have different priorities and different styles in doing so.
And one of the things, Joey, I'll follow up on you with this one. When we posted and when we've been a part of previous debates, the theme of corruption has come up on a number of the races, of course, clearly in the race for U.S. Senate, but also in the seat where Bob Menendez's son, Rob Menendez, is holding that. But I'm looking through my notes. I don't really think that was a point. They weren't talking about bringing honor back to any seat. There wasn't really anything about corruption. If anything, I heard more about attacking Donald Trump and looking to that general election in November and going against Trump. Did you pick up on anything?
Well, so I mean, it's funny that you've used the phrase like bringing honor back to the seat. They don't feel the need to do that because they all think Andy Kim is great. I mean, Andy Kim holds this seat. He is extremely popular among Democrats here. I think that you saw that when in the early stages of him running for Senate, like his most ardent supporters were coming from Burlington County, which is his home county and also the base of this seat, and where all three of those candidates, where Assemblyman Conaway, Assemblyman Murphy, and Mr. Cohn all live. So, I mean, we asked a question about Andy Kim at the very beginning, and all three of their immediate responses was like, oh, well, I think he's great. And, we may disagree on a thing or two here and there. But, to be totally honest, if any of them could rise up to the level of where Andy Kim has gotten to in his 5 years in Congress, I think they'd be extremely happy with that.
Yeah. David, can you just talk a little bit about, as we are recording this, the trial for Senator Bob Menendez is underway, how that is playing? Is it at all playing into this race that we've been talking about in the 3rd district, or does it have an impact on it the way it is for other races?
I heard it. I mean, this is it. I mean, Menendez was going to run for re-election to the Senate. Kim was going to run for re-election to the House. Menendez's legal troubles, reset New Jersey politics, and that affects the two close congressional races, which is the one for Andy Kim's seat, and the one where Rob Menendez, the senator's son, who did nothing wrong, and it's probably important to keep pointing that out. Is there's no allegations of any wrongdoing by Congressman Menendez, except for the fact that he holds his father's name. And face it, he got there because he held his father's name. Now he could potentially, and I don't know how it's going to turn out, but he could potentially lose it through no fault of his own, but mainly because people don't know whether which Menendez this is on the ballot.
Okay. Final thoughts, Joey, as we're heading into election day. Polls are already opened. We had elections just this week. Just some of your final thoughts as we wrap up our time here. Takeaways of this debate. We heard from Carol Murphy, Herb Conaway, Joe Cohn. And there are actually 5 candidates, but we were only able to accommodate 3 of those candidates. Just final thoughts on the takeaways from this debate.
I think David mentioned this earlier. I mean, this is the congressional race in New Jersey that I feel like I have by far the least of a clear grasp on. These are candidates who have not raised the kind of money that they need to raise to really, really run a super robust operation. And they're not candidates who likely have a ton of pre-existing name recognition or support. So I think that they're flying a little bit blind. I think that a lot of voters are probably going to be flying a little bit blind until they have to make a decision right near Election Day. And I think that means that we as reporters and analysts are flying a little bit blind. I could see lots of different results coming out on June 4th. And I can't say that I wouldn't necessarily be surprised with a lot of different outcomes, because I really think that right now we're in a holding period where I don't know how voters are reacting to these candidates. I don't know how many voters are even able to learn about these candidates because there's been so little spending. Hopefully this debate will let voters, will clue them into a lot of the key policy areas and differences and similarities. But for now, I just sort of approaching this race with an anything could happen attitude.
Right, and that's why we keep doing what we're doing, because nobody else is covering this, but we are covering it. David Wildstein, Joey Fox, thank you for taking the time to talk to me. It's always good seeing you both.
Thanks.
Thanks, Laura.
And we want you to stay with us as we continue our conversation. This is New Jersey Politics with Laura Jones. Stick around.
Summers in New Jersey were made to wow you. From sun and wows to fun and wows and every wow in between. So come see what your wow's gonna be. New Jersey. It's one wow after another, after another, after another. You get it. Find your wow at visitnj.org. New Jersey, little state, lot of wow.
Thanks for staying with us here on New Jersey Politics with Laura Jones. Recently, I spoke with Assemblyman Al Barlas on what's happening in Trenton. Here now is part of that conversation. Assemblyman, welcome to the show. It's so good to see you.
Thank you. You too. Pleasure to be here.
Well, we're going to be talking some dollars and cents here. We're talking about the governor's spending plan, nearly $56 billion. And a lot of people, when you talk about the budget address, they kind of turn off. They just think it's too much for me to digest. But the headline when the governor delivered his address was all about increasing affordability, making New Jersey more affordable, which is always an issue. So let's get your take just on his overall budget address and the points he made.
Listen, I thought the governor delivered a good speech. However, I think he missed the mark. He missed the mark on affordability. He missed the mark on making the state, reducing the overall tax burden on our residents. When you talk about a budget that's gone up 3% from last year, that cuts our surplus by over $1 billion, that is shortchanging 170 school districts in terms of school aid, that's cutting municipal aid by potentially up to $400 million. That's coming out of people's pockets one way or the other.
All right, well, let's talk a little bit more about, he talked about prioritizing education, protecting young people. So when it comes to education, can you talk a little bit about, because a lot of Republicans were very concerned with school funding, because he said, hey, I'm going to fully fund and invest $900 million in public education. So can you talk a little bit about, let's dissect that if we could.
Sure. Absolutely. So he's allocated $11.6 billion, which is an increase of $900 million from last year. However, you're cutting school aid to about 170 municipalities. In my district alone, That's a roughly 14% budget. I'm sorry, nearly 20% budget cut to the town of Hawthorne, to the tune of about $800,000. You've got other towns such as Old Bridge, which is losing 14%, Toms River Regional, which is losing about 30%, Pittman Borough down in Gloucester County is losing 27%, Summers Point in Atlantic County is losing 46% of their school aid as relates to as compared to last year. So yes, there's 900 million more. There's 120 some odd million for pre-K, but you're still shortchanging almost 170 school districts, which, that's going to get made up by the property taxpayers.
Well, and that's how it works in New Jersey. Most of our local property taxes go to schools, and we are already overtaxed as it is. What are you hearing back from your community when it comes to school, when it comes to the possibility of taxes going up? I live in a district where I live in South Hunterdon Regional School District, where there's an ongoing brouhaha over expanding pre-K, and the governor talked about universal pre-K for all of New Jersey.
Well, the question is, where are you going to fund it, right? I mean, listen, I have two children who are 3 and 5 and go to preschool now, and it's expensive. And it's, every 2 weeks there goes out, paycheck comes in, there goes out the money for preschool. And a lot of families struggle with that. And so providing that is a great thing, but you can't do that and cut from other places in school aid, right? I mean, at that point, you're just robbing Peter to pay Paul. And, we've got school towns that are potentially losing municipal aid, towns that are going to lose school aid. Last year, you had the average property tax increase of about 3.3%. So at some point, folks are reaching a critical mass where they just can't afford it. And this governor is continuing to spend more and more money on projects, while certainly well-intentioned, but you're missing the mark if people can't afford to live here and pay their regular bills on a daily basis.
So as a Republican on the Budget Committee, when I was in Trenton talking to other lawmakers, a lot of praise from Democrats, obviously, from the governor. But Republicans talk a lot about, we don't really have a say at the table when it comes to negotiating the budget. So, now is the time you all roll your sleeves up. You get to business on trying to pass a budget. So can you talk a little bit about how you feel Republicans and what priorities you would like to see as you start to tackle this portion of the budget?
Listen, I think part of it is our job is to hold everybody accountable. As the department head hearings begin in the Budget Committee, our job is to ask the poignant questions of the different commissioners. Where are you spending the money? What are the programs that are the most effective? What are the programs where you could sustain some cuts, continue to provide a service that is valuable to the residents of New Jersey, but perhaps take some money out of one program to help fund school aid, to help fund municipal aid? Look, there's a lot of good things in this budget, right? We're making a full pension payment of $7 billion. We are putting money into student teacher programs. We're putting money into teacher loan redemption programs, firefighter mental health. Those are all very important things that we need to do. But at the same time, our number one priority should be to make the state more affordable and ease the burden that our residents are facing day in and day out under this administration, which is raising New Jersey transit fares by 15%.
Well,
Toll increases just happen.
Yeah, well, and that's exactly where I was going. New Jersey Transit, he talked about investing in New Jersey Transit, and everybody was kind of, waiting, what is he going to talk about when it comes to New Jersey Transit, because there's so much that needs to be done. And what he announced during his budget is, hey, taxpayers, you're not going to have to burden that. I'm going to institute a corporate transit tax. So in a way, he broke his campaign promise of, I'm not going to raise corporate taxes, but he is. So what do you make of this? Is this a good thing, bad thing? Because he's saying, hey, I'm only going to tax the highest, most successful, the biggest companies in the state of New Jersey.
This is another example of, pacifying the progressive base of the Democratic Party, where they are making out to be the villains. Anybody who employs somebody, any business that earns any money. In a utopia, sure, those are great. Nobody should make any money, and we should all live in 4,000 square foot houses and everything is peachy keen, but that's not the way the world actually works. And in places where they have tried those things, you have seen historical failures over time. So a 2.5% corporate business tax on businesses over $10 million. I mean, it's just another way to pass down increases to other segments of the population. If a business has to pay more tax, chances are they're going to end up raising their price on whatever goods or services it is that they sell or provide. So again, I hate to use the same analogy again, but you're robbing Peter to pay Paul. You're taking it from the left hand and putting it into the right hand. So what good are you doing at the end of the day?
We thank you so much, Assemblyman, for taking the time to talk to us.
Thank you, Laura. Appreciate it.
And that will do it for today. Thank you so much for watching New Jersey Politics. I'm Laura Jones. We look forward to seeing you back here next time.
New Jersey, we've got more summer wows under the sun than anyone. So come see what your wow's gonna be in the little state of New Jersey, where it's one wow after another, after another, after another. You get it. Find your wow at visitnj.org. New Jersey, little state, lotta.